Welcome. My name is Błażej Kotełko. I work as a program manager in Microsoft Development Center in Copenhagen, Denmark, the home of Business Central. And today we will be talking about Business Central integration with Power Platform and specifically what's new in this wave. We'll cover Power Automate, changes in the connector, Power Apps, a little bit about Power BI, and of course some resources for you. So as you can see, a lot of things to cover. Let's start with Power Platform, which is the great set of tools to develop low-code solutions connecting Business Central with other systems. And as you know, you can build Power BI based dashboards or reports using Power BI. You can build apps using Power Apps, and Power Automate can be used to build workflows and specifically automations that connect Business Central to other systems. You can also use Power Automate to build Power Virtual Agent bots that you can place on your website. And of course, you can build with a new tool, Power Pages, websites that can be accessible by external customers. And all of that works with connection to an array of different data connectors. Over 900 connectors exist right now in the catalog, and of course, among of them, Business Central connectors too. And we will cover some changes in the connector that were introduced recently. For Power Platform and Business Central specifically, just to refresh what we have out of the box, we have the integration with Power BI through the connector to Power BI. And that's where you can build your dashboards, place them in Business Central, or view them in Power BI as well. And of course, use some of those apps that are built and defined by us and placed on App Store. So we have a couple of sample apps there. For the core Power Platform integration, this is where you would be using Power Platform connector. And in that way, you can use and build different experiences using different tools from Power Platform using our connector. We also have Dataverse Virtual Tables technology that allows you to visualize data from Business Central into Dataverse. And then you can use the data visible in Dataverse to build more advanced Power Apps and solutions. We also have the Data Sync that allows you to synchronize data from Business Central to Dataverse, specifically for Dynamics 365 sales. So as you can see, a lot of topics to cover, and that is why in this event we have multiple recordings that cover Power Platform. You have a Power Automate and Workflows recording specifically talking about Power Automate. My colleagues explain in depth how this could be used now. We have a session for Power Apps with new guidance for partners how to build Power Apps. And we also have a session about those virtual tables with some new capabilities connected to business events. So please do have a look at those. The first topic that I would like to cover is Power Automate and Workflows. And as you can see from the icon I included on the slide, there is a separate recording talking about this in depth. When we're talking about Business Central and Power Automate, there are three ways those two systems are connected and work together. And there are three ways for you to utilize Power Automate in Business Central. The first and most popular way is the approval templates, workflows that talk about approving documents. Those exist in Business Central already, but in this wave, we have introduced a new template system, and we will talk about that in a moment. So this is much easier to set up right now. The other way is the automated flows, flows that run in the background and can be triggered based on a data change event or for instance, an incoming email message. You can also set up flows that run on a regular basis, like for instance, every Monday morning. And then they work in the background and can perform a sequence of different tasks for you. And then the third way is the manual flows or instant flows, which form actions in Business Central, and those actions can be triggered just by using them in the user interface, in the web client, and starting a flow. So this way you can build new capabilities for Business Central using Power Automate. The best way to see it is in a demo. So let's dive deeper. I'm here in my Business Central Role Center. And as you can see, I can, for instance, go to my sales orders, open a new one, and using the request approval feature, create a new approval flow based on Power Automate. This will create a new flow based on Power Automate approval flows, and that's where you have the new experience with new templates. If I would like to use the manual flow, the flow that I can trigger from the Business Central, let's try to do this in items. And on items list, I can go to automate and create a new flow from for the items card directly from here. That also opens new experience with templates for you. And of course, if you switch to Power Automate, you can build any other flows that are running automatically, either based on our events or triggers or events, or based on other events coming from external sources, like for instance, an email that gets sent. And those flows can be running automatically on a regular basis. These are the three areas of connectivity between Business Central and Power Automate. Talking about Power Automate and those approval workflows. Before this release wave, you were still able to do those and define workflow approvals based on Power Automate, but the process was a bit difficult for most of the users. That's why in this wave, we introduce a simplified way to set up approval workflows based on Power Automate. You have a simplified experience with templates. You need to fill a simple form. Then the Power Automate flow is created for you by Business Central, and then it's ready for you to run and start approving documents from there. And as I mentioned, there is a separate session talking about that in detail with my colleague. We'll be giving you a demo of this feature in detail. When we are talking about those custom automate actions, actions that are in Business Central and can be triggered by the user from the actions in the web client, we also have introduced in this release wave a new templating experience. So when you create a new action based on Power Automate, you can use one of those templates we created for you, and there will be more and more templates coming to this catalog. You can also, of course, use an empty screen and start from scratch. It will be always starting from a specific trigger, but then you can build your flow as you want. And of course, even if you have started from a template, you build your flow, you can still edit it later in Power Automate and add some more actions to it. And the actions that are in Business Central, as always, they can be promoted, customized, and of course renamed in using Power Automate. We also have added some new AL capabilities for developers to create those actions using code. Connected to Power Automate actions is a new feature introduced in this wave that allows you to select a specific Power Automate environment that is linked to Business Central for this particular purpose. When you look at actions that are in the Automate group, they are coming from a specific Dataverse environment or Power Automate environment. And you can choose for each user or for all users as an admin which Dataverse environment or Power Platform environment, which is the same concept, which of those environments should we query and show the flows from. This is very important for many of partners who are working with multiple Dataverse environments. We have also added 2 new actions to the connector that could be used in Power Automate, but the capability actually is also possible in Power Apps. That allows you to access binary data, images, PDF documents, attachments, and so on and so forth. So more possibilities for you to create flows that include media coming from Business Central or saving data to Business Central in binary form, like for instance, document attachments that are sent via email as an example. We have also added a new API page specific for document attachments because up to this point, the attachments API that exists in Business Central was only working with incoming documents. Now you have a second one, document attachments, that is connected to actual document attachments. So you can manipulate all of those easily with Power Automate. We added new actions for manipulating URLs and adaptive cards. Specifically, you can generate a URL based on a specific Business Central entity, a specific item, sales document, a customer, and then use that URL, send it as an email to someone asking, hey, would you like to have a look? Click on this URL. That opens a web client with Business Central focused on that specific entity. This might be very useful for certain scenarios. And in the same way, you can use adaptive card, build an adaptive card based on that URL, and in a rich form, the same form that you know from the integration with Teams, where you have a summary of a given item or record from Business Central in a nice visual form, and that adaptive card can be then used to send specific automated messages to Teams or through Outlook. You can actually use adaptive cards also in Power Virtual Agents as a bot experience. Additionally, we have also added a new context about environment and company to all triggers in Power Automate. So right now you can use that concept and build Power Automate flows that are movable or can operate on various companies and environments, and that context is provided from Business Central on the fly. Few other changes in the connector. I don't want to go and talk about all of them. Please have a look at the separate session, but the most important part might be probably that we have support for Power Apps with translated field captions, with data search, and a lot of different changes that make the connector even better. Speaking about Power Apps, as I mentioned again, there is a separate session on Power Apps, so please have a look. But in this release wave, we have added support for Power Apps to our AL Go framework. So that's a framework that defines application life cycle management templates for your solutions based on AL, and right now also solutions based on Power Apps. So you can combine that together and build them at once. We are also adding samples, improved documentation, and more guidance for partners and customers to create Power Apps that are connected to Business Central, allowing you to take advantage of tools that we prepared for you in this regard. On the website that you have on screen, we will be adding more and more documentation and samples. At the time you are watching this recording, the documentation is not published yet, but it will be coming later in this release. In the area of Dataverse Virtual Tables, you can now enjoy business events that are events triggered from Business Central in specific cases, like for instance, if an invoice has been posted. You can define those events in the application, and also the developers can define those events using AL. And those events can be then consumed in Power Automate, for instance, building a flow that reacts on those business events using either the Dataverse connector, like on this screenshot, and then using Dataverse Virtual Tables, or also later during this wave with our standard Business Central connector in Power Automate. For Power BI, we have built the ability to visualize multiple different Power BI parts on a role center. And now in this release wave, a much easier way to do it with personalization mode. So you can go through the Business Manager role center with the new wave, and then basically unhide those specific parts that you want, and then have multiple Power BI reports on the main screen. So let's talk about some other resources that we have for you. We have, of course, documentation for main tools that we use from Power Platform. So Power BI, Power Automate, and Power Apps. We have general resources and documentation and some samples for you in the technology section at BC Tech. As I mentioned before, there are multiple different recordings in this event, so please have a look at Power Automate, Power Apps, and Virtual Tables separate sessions to learn more. If you have any questions and comments about Power Platform specifically, please use our Yammer community. As a partner, you have access to Yammer, and we have a separate group talking about Power Platform over there. If you have any ideas, please send them through BC Ideas, as always. This is always recommended way. And of course, join our office hours that we run on a regular basis, specifically talking about Power Platform. That will be it from me today. Thank you very much.